Forlorn Classics is back, everyone. It's the Axle Shifter here, and welcome back to the next FC episode. So today, we're going to be discussing an actual very old console game. It was released around the early 2000s/90s, around that era at least. The game is, as you all know by the title and thumbnail, NASCAR Rumble. The NASCAR game that's a NASCAR game, but at the same time, not really. And you'll see why in the following minutes. So yeah, I really wanted to talk about this game because I recently just played it through a game website with emulation, of course, and yeah, that still counts. So yeah, I really wanted to talk about it because I feel like this game is very interesting, and while it is known, it's not very really much talked about, or at least wherever I'm seen. I mean, I guess it is in the NASCAR community, but I don't know if outside of it or even as much in the NASCAR community itself, because it is just a game from way back then. So yeah, I think I want to talk about it now, give it the attention it needs. So let's do it. Now, NASCAR Rumble was created by EA, the same people behind Need for Speed, Dead Space, Burnout, all those classic games. And we all know that EA fucking sucks as a company, but to be fair, this game is pretty good, so I mean, I guess they did do something right, which is make good games back then. And it was solely made for the PlayStation, as it wasn't really released on any other platforms. So yeah, it was originally released back in February 3rd, 2000. Yeah, I told you it was released in the early 2000s. So basically, it's basically like a Mario Kart type game, but with NASCAR vehicles instead. And it was mostly another one licensed sequel called, Rumble Racing instead of NASCAR Rumble. But in the actual NASCAR Rumble game itself, the main objective is to mostly just win a series of races, or even win a series of races against 5 opponents. The races are normally, obviously, the souped up stock cars from the actual NASCAR show itself, the actual, franchise using. But there's a key. There are actually 3 different types of these types of stock cars: the rookie, the pro, and the elites. The elites are easily the most powerful and the most souped up looking. It even has a blower on the top of its hood. I mean, I really love the designs that they went for the NASCARs. Despite the fact that they look super pixelated and pretty outdated by today's standards, they actually look really cool in my opinion. It's really nice that they really simplified the NASCAR designs to really fit into this game. It really helped them out. And yeah, I really wish they made a diecast line for these things. I don't know. Maybe they just couldn't because, I don't know. But anyways, now it's on to the actual gameplay itself. The gameplay consists of you using power-ups. Yeah, a NASCAR game, the first one in like forever, and probably the only game to actually use power-ups, because the other NASCAR games are more realistic and prone to the real-life events of NASCAR itself, while this game is pretty much an anomaly to those. But as for the power-ups, you can use an electrical EMP, an oil slick, a rammer, and a turbo boost. And even use a thundercloud, similar to how Mario Kart does it. These items allows you to progress throughout the races and take down your opponents so you can pass right through them. But the opponents can also use power-ups too, so be careful. Because in my playthrough of the game, I was in first place, but then this guy that had a thundercloud was suddenly using it. And that's the thing with this game, because for some reason, if you go super fast, it will really affect you. When a thundercloud comes to you, you will just spin around all over the place and just not be in the first position anymore, or at the very least lose your speed and just crash out. But if you reduce your speed, you will kind of avoid this problem altogether. So make sure to reduce your speed, and the game even says it on the top of the screen itself. But as for the power-ups themselves, I mean, they can feel pretty wonky most of the time, because I mean, this is a 2000s game, so it's clearly not going to be the absolute best, and it's going to be pretty outdated, but they're not that bad to use because they can still be pretty useful and pretty fun to use, but prepare for the wonkiness and absolute insanity going on. But that's what I really like about this game. It really feels kind of charming in that sense. And now for the tracks themselves and the level design. The level design is, I mean, it's not that great in terms of, actual being a racetrack, but, it is pretty okay because there actually is a lot of secret pathways and shortcuts throughout the races, and those could be pretty cool, but at the same time, though, the controls and the pretty much overall level design for the racetracks themselves can be kind of mediocre at times because they just feel pretty basic. I mean, if you're going to go all out with the power-ups and everything, I mean, at least make more exaggerated tracks than what we got. Instead, we just have basic, the oil rig and everything, basic forest-like tracks, and even a big city one, which is, to be fair, that looks really cool, and that's honestly my favorite track throughout the whole game, but still, it can really feel kind of whatever at times, I suppose. But now it's time I talk about the soundtrack itself. The soundtrack of this game is really good. I really fucking love this OST. I mean, it really feels like they truly went to heart of NASCAR, truly Americanized everything here. This isn't a Need for Speed game where all types of soundtracks are used. This is a NASCAR game, and we have the classic rock American tunes. Oh yeah, baby, now let's head out to the track and let's go. Yeah, okay, sorry about that, but okay. And there are even other game modes to this game, like time trial, which basically means that the player has to get around 4 laps around a track, or a lap record or a track of their choice. And if they lose the time trial, otherwise they just lose the level itself. But if they do win, they just outright win. And there's also a showdown mode where one lap shoots out against the opponent of the player's choice, and the player also chooses the track and power-up density. And the championship, which is the most iconic one, where you where you just race around different opponents and win a championship. Now, what are some of the cons for this game? Well, once again, I mean, while the graphics don't look that bad, and I do love the design of the cars, they just don't really feel that well to drive, in my opinion. I mean, the game is playable itself, but at the same time, though, it can feel, like I said before, really wonky. And also, the level design could use a little bit of work. I really would have loved to see more wacky and insane designs for the tracks, like how we saw in NASCAR Unleashed. Yeah, that future game. Now, this game was released before NASCAR Unleashed, so maybe NASCAR Unleashed took NASCAR Rumble as an inspiration, I suppose, and made things even better. But still, I could really use some of that. Also, the power-ups could have used some work too. Instead of just reducing the speed, have the power-ups actually affect you 100% to make sure that, the game actually has a set difficulty and not just a complete random, whatever it wants. And those are my thoughts on NASCAR Rumble. Honestly, this game, despite its flaws, has been really fun so far, and I still have it on emulation on my laptop, so I still play it pretty regularly and often because it's just, not the best game, but it's definitely one of my favorite NASCAR games because despite being a complete anomaly compared to the other NASCAR games, which are more realistic, this game just not completely goes off the wall, but it still inspires really cool aspects that were probably but led to NASCAR Unleashed the game because it has power-ups and stuff, and especially like the designs of the elite NASCARs. That's really cool. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and goodbye.